SummerSlam's the new WrestleMania. You know, they announced that it's going to be 2 nights coming up in 2026. Robin Lundberg, Kevin Zwicker here on the Robin Lundberg YouTube channel. And, you know, Kevin, that's obviously a money grab, and we'll get to the ramifications of the King of the Ring coming up Saturday in just a second. But I did find that interesting that they announced that for Minneapolis, the 2 nights of SummerSlam. WrestleMania has been 2 nights. That's a relatively recent thing. But the thing I want to say about it is, I get that it's just to get extra money, but as somebody who just went to WrestleMania, the 2-night experience as a fan was super cool and super fun. It's like, you know, a getaway. And on top of that, like, you're done the first night and then you're like, we still got another one to go, right? Like you're still hyped about that next night.
Yeah, you know, there's been made a lot about free agency in wrestling, different superstars jumping from one company to another. But I really think the biggest acquisition within the last couple of years in wrestling has been Nick Khan. You know, he's transformed this business into something else. You know, before Nick Khan, these international shows weren't happening as much. These big stadium shows weren't happening as much. He's helping extend these things like he did with SummerSlam. So I feel like he's probably the biggest acquisition in recent wrestling memory, just because of the things that are happening with WWE at the moment.
My one-time agent, Nick Khan, for about 5 minutes, he was my agent. Meanwhile, Triple H, who gets a lot of the credit for what's going on, also had this announcement about the upcoming King of the Ring.
On that, in the past, King and Queen of the Ring, it was such an honor to be in that tournament and to win that tournament on your own, to have that launch you to another place. But I wanted that tournament to kind of stand on its own, and I didn't want to announce this part of it until we got here. But I'll let all of you know that tonight, that the winner of the King of the Ring tournament and the winner of the Queen of the Ring tournament will both go on to receive championship matches with the title of their respective brands. So they will both get world title shots, either WWE or world title, at SummerSlam.
So at SummerSlam, that's specific, right? What he's saying there, and that's good. We had wondered, and I think people have been like, what is the point of the King of the Ring? They're going to wear a crown or something and prance around. You know, I remember the days of King Mabel and King Haku. I don't even think Haku actually won the King of the Ring. But nevertheless, this sets up some fascinating layers, because he also said respective brands, which means, let's say Gunther wins, he has to go after Damian Priest's championship or whoever holds that at the time. And if Randy Orton wins, he goes after Cody Rhodes, and that's a mega match. Like, Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton is a mega match.
Now, I am so happy that Triple H announced that the King of the Ring winner gets title shots. For all transparency with the audience, I'm not really that huge of a King of the Ring fan. You know, I love King Booker, love the Macho King, but without the title shot, I always felt it was pointless. So I'm so glad that he was able to include this. And now this kind of opens up a Pandora's box of a lot of things. You know, let's just play the assuming game. I'm assuming that Cody Rhodes is going to retain at the PLE on Saturday, and I'm assuming that we're going to get the finals with Gunther and Randy. And this really leaves a lot of question marks, because if Randy wins the King of the Ring tournament, he has this big-time match with Cody, and the backstory is already laid out, so don't really got to go too much detail into that. If Gunther wins, it probably sets up a match with Damian Priest at SummerSlam, which could be his coronation moment. And then the other in-between stuff is what really interests me too, because if Randy wins, where does this leave Gunther at SummerSlam? You know, we don't know what's going on. You know, there's also that big-time McIntyre Punk match that could possibly happen at SummerSlam as well. We don't know if the title's going to be involved in that. And if Gunther wins, where does that leave Cody? Could we possibly get Cody versus Roman 3? Don't know what the Rock shooting schedule is looking like. Could we possibly get that Cody Rock match then? We just don't know. And as a wrestling fan, that's the fun part of this whole situation, the unknown.
Well, it's about to get exciting and needs to get exciting, because so far this Cody Rhodes title reign has been kind of boring in my mind. Randy Orton and Gunther would be a hell of a match. Like, as an AEW guy, you got to like just that as a match.
I love Gunther. Full disclosure, I am a big AEW guy, but I wave the Gunther flag in the air proudly. I'm a big-time fan, and I would like to see him win. But gun to my head right now, if I had to make a prediction, I would say it's going to be Randy, because like you said before, this Cody title reign has been kind of boring. And I feel like Cody needs this big time non-bloodline related match that could just inject some excitement into this title reign that he's had so far.
Well, see, I could see it going either way because the Bloodline has sort of been feuding with Randy. They could cost him, and that does allow Gunther to have his championship match and win. Because if Gunther was facing Cody, what do you do there? Can you have Gunther lose again? Now, so Gunther winning means it's still up in the air what could happen with Cody, who could show up at what point in time. So that's interesting. On the women's side, I think Nia Jax is almost certainly going to win. So then is it Nia Jax and Bayley at SummerSlam?
I fully agree with you as well. I do envision Nia Jax winning this tournament because Nia Jax has been on a roll. Since she's came back from Triple H bringing her back, I've actually been into Nia Jax a lot more. Before, she was released the first time, I really wasn't into her. But what Triple H has done with her is brought layers to her character. Her matches aren't the same as they were before. So I am predicting a Nia Jax win as well.
And I think, they obviously planted the seeds for her to feud with Jade Cargill, which I think is a really good idea. Did you see that quarter hour was the highest rated quarter hour on SmackDown last week, the Jade Cargill Nia Jax match?
I did. Jade's a needle mover. She is number one in the ring and number one in a lot of our hearts.
Well, I mean, for some obvious reasons, she's very photogenic, that Jade Cargill. And she's just a presence too. I mean, I said this when she was in AEW. To me, AEW has created like two actual stars. CM Punk doesn't count because he came over from WWE. MJF felt like he mattered, and Jade Cargill felt like she mattered. Those are I'm not trying to diss anybody else. Like, whatever you can root for, whatever. But the ones that felt like big time, or like, oh, they could wind up in WWE, or they could be stars in their own right at AEW, sell merchandise, whatever. You know a star when you see one. To me, it was MJF and Jade Cargill. So that's why I did think it was such a big deal when she went over to WWE.
For sure. And just looks aside, when you look at Jade, she looks like a real life action figure in person. Like, you could be flipping the channels on your TV and you see a person who looks like her and you would want to stop and say, what is this? Because she just has such a unique look. She's basically kind of like a modern day China in a way.
Yeah, but a little bit more of a how do I put this without getting in trouble? I prefer Jade Cargill's presentation to China. Her entrance and all. The Storm is coming and everything, but China was a star in her own right at the time, and obviously was up against the men at various times and everything. But that women's division, again, this is they had to deal with Rhea Ripley being out, just like WWE's dealing with Roman Reigns being out. The Rock was all a special attraction, but eventually those are two stars they need back, right? Like, Roman and Rhea are their two biggest stars outside of, I guess, Cody at this point. It has been elevated to that point, but to be able to drum up this level of excitement without two of your biggest stars is a positive sign, because I think a lot of people are going to be wondering what happens with that RKO versus Ring General showdown, if that is indeed the match.